Согласование искусственного
We will
интеллекта
move
с
on. The
человеческими ценностями.
coordination and alignment of the artificial intelligence with the AI will be covered by Tom Gruber from Siri and Humanistic.AI impacted.
Today, I'd like to start a conversation about the ethics of artificial intelligence, about how to think about the choices we make when deploying this technology. And I want to think about this as practitioners, not philosophers. How can we put this to work in practice? What would we actually do today to make a difference in how AI impacts us? I have a point of view on this. It's consistent with the latest thinking about AI ethics among professors who are writing articles and so on. But we don't have to get into any deep theories. We can just follow the idea proposed by Isaac Asimov, the famous science fiction writer, who posited his rules of robotics. What he was saying, and what today's professors are saying, is that we should build ethics into our machines. And we call this value alignment. And the problem is how to get AI to align with human values. Okay, so why is ethics all of a sudden a topic for AI? Well, I don't think we have to tell you this, but AI is powerful technology. Kai-Fu Lee, the highly respected thought leader for AI in China, says nothing short of AI will transform the world, that he means in all kinds of ways. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, who has invested more than any other company in AI, says AI is one of the most important things humanity is working on, more profound than electricity or fire. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, says, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon, and AI is potentially more dangerous than nuclear weapons. So do we need to be careful? Well, let's see. The argument usually goes like this. AI is getting better fast, with a non-linear upward swoop of techno-utopia, ending in artificial general intelligence, which is either your ticket to early retirement or the end of the world, depending on whose science fiction you prefer. But the conclusion is actually, yes, we should be careful and worried, because when we get supercolossal and general intelligence, it will be making up its own mind and be evil. But hold on, I think this endpoint is a distraction, because long before we get anywhere close to the kind of general AI that can surpass our smartest humans at most activities, powerful but narrow AI will be able to take advantage of human weaknesses common to most people and defeat us in artificially constructed environments. And in fact, we have already reached that point. Today, there's an application of AI that is already better than most humans at something all humans do: persuasion and control of human behavior. Getting people to do what you want. It is already a Frankenstein story today. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the attention economy. Together, over 2.8 billion people use Facebook and over 2 billion people use YouTube. These sites are designed to get you to join the cult and keep you there forever. Once people start a session watching a YouTube video on their phone or Facebook feed, they end up staying on their devices for an average of over an hour. The feed is addictive. It is common for people to check the social media on their phones over 100 times a day. And just to put this in perspective, that's more than the number of followers of the largest world religions, neither of which require praying 100 times a day. That is true devotion. So how do the titans of the attention economy become so successful? These companies didn't win because of brilliant design or clever psychology or con artist tricks. These systems can manipulate human behavior at scale because of AI operating on big data. See, every day these sites run psychology experiments on their subjects that are orders of magnitude larger than anything ever published in a scientific journal. They gather every scrap of information about how people interact with the systems, aggregating over billions of people every day. They feed this data into the most powerful AI technology deployed at unprecedented scale, to learn from all of us of how to get us all to play along. How does this work? Well, to build a state-of-the-art website, this is how you do it. You build an initial experience using your best design ideas. You try lots of things that influence user behavior on your site. You get lots of data about actual behavior. You learn from the data. You update the site and repeat. Now, from these sites, these social media sites, the way they learn is by deploying well-known AI development processes for gathering data and developing models that maximize an objective. The objective for the AI models is to get people to stay online as long as possible, to click on ads, and to spread the virus. Now, the AI models predict optimal parameters in the user interface, and in particular make recommendations, such as promoting content, encouraging relationships with certain groups of people, and favoring some sources while ignoring others. And as the AI learned from the data, they got better at maximizing the objective function. The AI models did what they were trained to do. And it works extremely well. Now, this is no secret or conspiracy theory. Of the billion hours watched on YouTube every day, over 2/3 are due to the AI-driven recommendation algorithm. This is an intended consequence of AI, a point of pride by the company. But let's look at what kind of content is being offered by the recommendation engine. Well, how would you ask that question? Let's say you do a Google search for an answer to the factual question of whether the Earth is round or flat. Now, if you type it into Google, you'll get a bunch of pages, and about 20% claim the Earth is flat. I don't know why. I don't know how many of those pages are generated by bots. It doesn't matter. Why? The reason it doesn't matter is because you ask Google for those pages, and you have to do your own research to decide. You are still online. However, if you check the content on this question that is recommended by the YouTube recommendation engine, which you didn't ask for, 90% say the Earth is flat. So if you're curious about more examples like this, check out the site algotransparency.org. It's full of examples like this. And also, did you know that dumb AI likes to recommend false news? Now, why would that be? In an MIT study of Twitter, researchers found that false news spreads much faster and much farther than real news. The AI models do not know the difference. They only know that people seem to like spreading this stuff, which factors into the model that recommends it. It amplifies our human weakness for gossip. It starts with good intentions. In 2017, the head of Facebook set the corporate objective to get people to join Facebook groups, quote, to bring the world closer together. He told his team to go do it with AI. And it worked, maybe a little too well. The recommendation engine did its thing. When somebody joined a new group on Facebook, the engine recommended other groups to join. More group membership. But the engine didn't always recommend new groups of human beings that you really want to meet. For example, if you are an expectant young woman joining a Facebook group for new mothers, guess what the engine recommends? Anti-vaccine conspiracy groups. And once you're in one of those groups, imagine what kind of other groups it recommends. Now, you could say, why blame AI? The internet is full of misinformation and conspiracy theories. We all know this. But most people aren't aware that AI is contributing to the problem by recommending this content to users. And real harm is done. This is not free speech or the wisdom of crowds. This is deadly misinformation at scale. In 2019, before the pandemic, the World Health Organization declared that anti-vaccine misinformation, much of it driven by recommendation engines, was a top 10 global health threat then, before the pandemic, because cases of measles had surged 30% worldwide in recent years despite an effective vaccine that can prevent it. And for the past year, we have watched in horror as misinformation spread through algorithmically governed social media is leading thousands of people to die unnecessarily during today's global pandemic. The harms done to humanity by Algorithm-driven social media are described powerfully in the documentary called The Social Dilemma, which is available on Netflix. It's about the work of the Center for Humane Technology. And if you haven't seen it yet, please do so. The center is advised by tech industry insiders like me, and we know how the system works. It's a system problem, not an isolated incident. It's not like there's a Facebook bug for misinformation. It's a consequence of building systems that optimize an objective without aligning the objective with human impact. Ultimately, it's a failure of value alignment that goes from the decisions made by algorithms in the trenches by data scientists, working all the way up through their chain of command to the executives and board of directors, and ultimately to the governments that allow this to happen. The problem is hard to solve because the systems are not governed by humans. They're governed by machines running AI software, operated at scales way beyond what humans can do. After several years of being told about the impact of optimizing for engagement and thousands of deaths due to misinformation, Facebook engaged the workforce to try to stop vaccine misinformation. But they didn't change the dynamics of the site and the feed. It still amplifies outrage and lies. The system remains broken, and in its current form, even Zuckerberg can't stop it. So have we reached the point where AI is beyond control? Well, what's happened is a story of out-of-control technology and unintended consequences, that's for sure. All that data fed into all those AI models has produced a kind of superhuman ability to addict and delude the human species, and it has won the contest for human attention. We don't have a chance. And in an adversarial game, exploited by propagandists and political animals, AI that recommends false and potentially dangerous content is a threat to the epistemological contract on which our society is built. Is this what Elon Musk warned us about when he said that AI is summoning the demon? No, it isn't actually. Musk was warning us about the superintelligence of the sort we worry about when we talk about artificial general intelligence. That's AI that can fool all of us all the time. No, this is not general intelligence. The AI behind these recommendation systems is today's narrow AI, applied to insane amounts of data about how people behave online. This AI has no idea what is true or false, helpful or harmful, just plain crazy. It doesn't know. It is brilliant, but it is an empty-headed idiot savant. All this narrow AI knows is what the data tells it will work to get people to do things that maximize the business objective. This is AI as an expert at manipulating human attention online and nothing else. In short, the recommendation engines of social media have created the AI equivalent of Frankenstein, the monster that comes back to attack the humans that created it. But it's not so bright. But if these systems are not general intelligence, they certainly don't know right from wrong. Can they be held accountable as moral agents? Should they? No, because the AI driving social media is not sentient and is not a moral agent. But that doesn't matter to the AI and ethics value alignment question, because there's a sense in which these systems have values, even if they are not aware of it. And to really understand what's going on, we need to get a little bit more technical and understand the key factor in the way AI works. It's called the objective function. At the core of any AI system is the model, which takes an input like an image and performs a computation like classifying the image. The objective function evaluates how well the model is doing its job. The objective function is core to the machine learning process. The AI algorithms, so-called algorithms, must be trained with an objective function. That's the way they work. For example, in an AI system to classify photos, when the system is presented with a photo of a cat and correctly classifies it as a cat, the objective function gives the model a good score. And repeated over millions of examples of cats and other things, The machine learning algorithm makes a model that's good at classifying photos. And as new data come in, these models are continuously improved. The objective function is measuring how well the model is doing at each iteration. It's central to the process of machine learning, and the AI engineers can't do their work without first defining the objective function and continuing to apply it. Now then, it's important to understand that the objective function must be a metric that the computer can compute by looking at data from observation or by simulation. Because it's a metric that's inside the computer, it's almost always an approximate measure of the actual goal or purpose of the system. The machine learning process only optimizes for the objective function and has no idea about its designer's intent. In AI systems that play games, like chess or Go, the role of the AI model is to evaluate how likely a particular move will lead to victory, so that the program can choose the best move at each turn. The objective function evaluates models at how well they predict the value of moves. And the only factor considered in the objective function is whether the move is on a winning path. This is typically computed by having the AI play millions of games against versions of itself until it has seen more situations than any human player could ever imagine, and the result is a system that can easily beat humans. Well, what about the attention economy? On a social media platform, the AI-based system is effectively playing a competitive game against its human users all the time to get the behavior that's it's intended to maximize. The goal of the AI model is to determine for each piece of content to put in front of the user which one will lead to more engagement. The machine learning that drives the recommendation engine is governed by an objective function that has three metrics: maximize human time spent on the site, maximize human clicking on things that might be ads, and maximizing recruiting the attention of other humans. Now, with billions of people interacting with social media sites every day, the AI system has enough data to win the game with overwhelming force. The problem is, the human is on the wrong side of the equation. Nowhere in the objective functions of social media are the hard-to-quantify soft metrics on the impact of this behavior on critical thinking, mental health, public discourse. As a result, we get the unintended consequences of automation. The AI engineers working on these systems don't program them to recommend dangerous misinformation. These engineers are just doing their best to make models that achieve the objective function established by their employers. So what can we do about it? Can we fix the objective function? Well, yes, but not easy. Remember, the objective function must be a metric that the computer can compute. You can't just tell the AI to do the right thing for humanity. You can't give it Asimov's laws of robotics, with statements like, do no harm to humans, because today's idiot savant AI doesn't know what that sentence means. This is a problem worth solving, but it's not going to be easy. Because human impact is much harder to measure than page views and clicks. How can you teach the machine that the content it is recommending will cause people to do harm to themselves or to others? How can the machine know that it's dangerous misinformation or just crazy clickbait that keeps people addicted? Who decides what content is good for you? Well, we could just give up and say it's too hard. But what if the challenge was actually an opportunity? I think there's an alternative. What if we built human welfare into the objective function? Engineer it right into the machine. Make AI that can't help but to do things that help people because that's what it has been trained to do. This is what I call humanistic AI, which is AI designed to empower humans rather than compete with them. The key is to think about how to build human benefit into the objective function from the beginning, to consider it even when deciding what kinds of AI applications to build, and then to make it be the goal for optimization. Now, humanistic AI isn't the same thing as, AI for good. It's a particular take on which kinds of AI to build. My strategy has been to look for applications that either augment or collaborate with humans, rather than automate or compete with them. And to define the objective functions for those applications as the joint performance of human and machines. Performance on something that humans are struggling to achieve. So what does it look like to change the objective function? Let's take an example of AI-driven video games, games that humans play. Traditionally, they're designed to maximize game time. They present game stimulus to the user, like Facebook puts things in your feed. They're optimized to present just the right kind and level of stimuli that the model predicts will produce a dopamine rush that reinforces the addictive behavior. Well, what if we change this to put AI on our side? Can we build into the system a metric that measures positive human behavior? Could we build AI models that predict not only whether a given technique increases gameplay, but also that it encourages behavior that improve the user's well-being and positive social interactions? That's exactly what a company called TrueLove.ai is doing. Instead of optimizing for dopamine-fueled addiction, their game-like experience offers a nurturing relationship with an AI character that optimizes for caring and compassion. Over 4 million people have downloaded the early experiment, an app called Self-Care, which is showing a new way for interface experiences to influence human behavior in a positive direction. In addition to helping us learn new behaviors, AI can help us understand what's going on in our minds and our bodies. This has huge potential. This is new ground. It requires a new kind of applied psychology and new ways to assess our mental well-being. It requires a virtual environment in which humans can learn about themselves while engaging in play, a safe, nurturing place. That's the kind of environment I would like to see in the so-called metaverse. Now, the measurement of how we are doing psychologically is important beyond games and virtual worlds. It's vital to improving mental health care. Millions suffer from conditions such as bipolar disorder, psychosis, PTSD, and depression. Mental health care professionals are not very good at predicting when someone will suffer from one of these conditions, even though early intervention can save lives and help restore cognitive function. What if we could deploy AI models that could predict from data that's already available when someone would need care for their mental health condition? A company called MindStrong has developed AI models that can do just that. These models are based on digital brain biomarkers that measure human cognition and mood. It turns out that the human-computer interactions required to operate on a smartphone puts a cognitive load on the person, which provides a sensitive window into low-level cognitive functions. The system gathers data on how the user taps and scrolls and uses the keyboard, then a big neural net uses that data to detect disruptions in these cognitive circuits. From changes in this behavior, the model can predict clinically relevant disruptions to cognitive control and working memory. In one case, a patient under care for bipolar disorder and psychosis seemed to be doing okay, but her brain biomarkers indicated that something was wrong. So her healthcare team was alerted and discussed the situation with her. She checked herself into the hospital for care and treatment, and to her great relief, she was able to restore her to normal health. The AI models predicted a breakdown which happened during her stay in the hospital, preventing a crisis and restoring health. This is a great example of a collaboration between humans and AI, each doing what they do best. The objective function for the system is going after a new skill, a superhuman talent at predicting internal mental conditions of a human brain by watching daily activity on the phone. Optimizing for this objective function leads to an AI that's surprisingly good at predictions, the kind of prediction that can alert humans to intervene and provide care. Well, what's another source of data that might be useful to help predict mental health? How about that same data that is used by the big dumb AI to addict us to the feeds? That'd be ironic, huh? Well, it's possible because all that data we create when living online is ripe with signals about how we're doing emotionally, cognitively, and physically. I recently started working with a company that's making a business out of this. They build AI models of behavioral health and well-being from digital life data. The company is called Quantify. Based on years of research published in scientific journals, the company builds AI models that analyze data from social media, from data from wearables like the Apple Watch and Fitbit, and from data about the place you live, and make statistically significant predictions of important clinical conditions like depression, PTSD, OCD, and eating disorders. Like MindStrong, their technology can be used in healthcare to alert and suggest appropriate, personalized interventions. In one application, their models monitored what's going on in New York during the COVID surge there in March. The models predicted that the healthcare workers were at heightened risk for suicide and burnout. This is before the highly publicized New York emergency room doctor took her life. So for those who opted in for personalized monitoring, the models led to insights and recommendations for stress management and improved sleep. Now, there used to be an argument that social media firms don't know or didn't know what their algorithms were doing to the psychological health of the population. We know now from the whistleblower reports that internal studies on the treasure trove of usage data that did, in fact, show evidence of psychological harm, particularly on teenage girls. There is plenty of signal in that data about how people are responding to the feed. So, I say there's no longer any excuse. If we're going to live under the spell of AI and big data-fueled recommendation engines, then let's talk about what they should be optimizing for. We can imagine expanding the objective function to include psychological benefit, as well as engagement. And perhaps we can start talking about what it means to encourage pro-social behavior on these sites, instead of amplifying the power of trolls and propagandists. And a really big question is whether recommendation engines can understand content, what it means, and what it is intended to do to the user. We have to deliberately tamp down the recommendations of clickbait and misinformation because we know it's junk, but we need to know it's junk. Beyond social media, we can now see how AI is involved in a system by which people interact with content and applications of all sorts, including those deliberately designed to support our well-being. AI augmentation of this sort is a great example of humanistic AI, and I would claim it's also a great example of ethical AI. It's doing good for humanity, but not because it knows any better. It's engineered with an objective function that optimizes for optimal health and wellness. In fact, I think these systems will evolve, and they will come to see them not as isolated AI models, but as a human-machine system, in which our interaction with the digital world is not only the source of data to learn about us, but a source of data for us to learn from. And the whole cycle of human-machine learning is guided by an objective function that optimizes for the joint performance of human and machine. And that's the kind of AI we all deserve. Thank you for your attention.
Том сейчас с нами на связи онлайн.
Tom is online.
Thank you for your interesting presentations. We've got questions from our viewers to you. Would you be so kind to answer them? May I ask? Okay. Can you name the most promising directions of AI development in the near future? What, in your opinion, should be the main focus of research?
Well, I'm very excited about the potential for AI to improve humans' awareness of our self, and particularly our mental and physical condition. There's an enormous amount of potential here that's just beginning to be exploited by AI models that can see into our brains, see into our bodies in ways that are superhuman, that are better than human, but enable us as humans to know more about how we're doing, how we're taking care of ourselves, how we're interacting with the world and stressing out or being healthy. So that's the lowest hanging fruit, and I'm really excited about that. I think the research needs to be on the unsolved problems of AI knowing the difference between junk and truth. And it's time for us to stop ignoring that problem and to get down and solve it.
And in what way are we interacting with the world?
Digitally, of course.
Okay. So name 3 basic principles that need to be followed in order to create and use artificial intelligence technologies responsibly and ethically. So how can we use them responsibly and ethically?
Well, I think I laid out a framework. The main thing is to realize that you can't deploy AI without having an ethical decision. Even a decision to start the project or not, what kind of project has a moral consequence. And so at each point we have to be thinking about who's this for? Is it for who's the beneficiary and who's the externality of this? And how, if the machine got smarter and smarter and smarter, who would benefit from that increased intelligence? And I think that's because we're going to see that anything we do now in AI is going to get 10 times better real soon. So we need to be careful with our decisions.
Yeah, especially if the machines become smarter than people, it's really a great problem. How can we live? How will we live next 10 years and so on? What difficulties can prevent artificial intelligence from learning social values?
That's a really good question. Right now, it has only bad data. It only has examples of either existing prejudicial and biased human behaviors in decision-making, or it has artificially constructed ones like virtual people in anonymous situations on virtual worlds on the internet. Those are not representative of genuine human healthy activity. So the challenge here is to create environments like, if we talk about virtual worlds or metaverses or whatever, make those environments such that the full range of positive human behavior can occur in those places so that we can get data on them and learn how to encourage people to do those things that are good for themselves and good for each other, as well as harmful.
Mr. Gruber, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your fantastic presentations once again.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.